When the day before was first announced, people went nuts. It was described as a mixture between DayZ and The Division, and seeing as this game still sits on the Steam's most wished list, this hype, it clearly didn't die down. But, to be honest with you, I'm not feeling it. In fact, I think the day before will fail. And I am going to tell you why. I forgot about this game until the other day when I saw a video about it. And the only real gameplay I had seen was when this game was first announced. So I knew that I wanted to look into this game a little bit more. And the first thing I searched up was who the devs were. As you can see, the studio behind the day before is called Fntastic Games. I don't know about you, but I have never heard of this studio before. So I decided to do a little bit more research into them. And what I found honestly surprised me, but not in a, oh my god, I won the lottery type of way. Instead, it was the type of surprise I got when I woke up one morning, looked in the bathroom mirror, and realized that I was going bald. Fntastic Games has only worked on 4 other games before, 3 of which were small multiplayer-based games, with the very first one that created, The Wild 8, being an 8-person multiplayer game in an open world. It is clear to me through this information, through the lack of games that they have worked on, that they don't have the experience to be working on something this big. But I thought, hey, well, they created an open world game, maybe my opinion might change. Maybe they'll be able to make a good open world with the day before. So I knew that I had to do a bit more digging, and I had to look into the Wild 8. And what I found, it left a very bad taste in my mouth. My first stop was over on the Steam page for the game. And there I saw a lot of people were raving about the game at first, stating their pleasure with it. But that changed when the new developers took over. I wasn't sure who first created this game. I didn't know if Fntastic created it then passed it off to a new developer, or if a new developer made it and then passed it off to Fntastic. So I did some digging and found out some pretty interesting things about it. The Wild 8 was a crowd-funded game. The game raised $60,000, which started its development, and it was in fact Fntastic that developed the game from scratch and Hypertrain Games that published it. But shortly after coming out of early access, Fntastic abandoned the game, selling it to Hypertrain, and that's where the reception became negative, with a lot of people displeased with Fntastic's action. More so since Hypertrain's handling of the game was horrible. This here leaves a bad taste in my mouth for a few reasons. The main one being that this game was crowdfunded. Fans were putting their faith in Fntastic, not in Hypertrain Games. And this thing, what they did here, it wasn't just a one-time thing. Because their next game they made, the Dead Dozen, which they were made pretty much right after selling the Wild 8, they did almost the exact same thing with. The Dead Dozen was an early access game on Steam that was a bug-filled mess. It was bad. A lot of people were complaining about it. But instead of fixing the mess that Fntastic Games had caused, they decided to abandon the game shortly after it was released in Steam's early access, which pissed off a lot of people. But the kicker about this, and I'm going to tell you guys this here because it's something I'm going to come back to, is that Fntastic Games claimed that the reason they were abandoning this game, I believe it was 3 months after they put it on early access, is because of budget issues. After finding this out, my skepticism for the game only grew larger. So I wanted to go on YouTube and check out some videos just to see if the gameplay was any better. And to be honest with you, I completely almost forgot about my previous discovery because the gameplay did look good. That was until I watched a video by Gameology. To give you a quick rundown about the Gameology video, 2 developers were reviewing the gameplay trailer that Fntastic released for the day before. And what it pretty much came down to was that Fntastic was lying to us, that the trailer that we were seeing was not actual gameplay, but pre-rendered footage.
Here's the thing, and this is why I think it's pre-baked.
Yeah.
See, that's supposed to be another player.
Right.
Can we go back? See the way they come in? It looks like it's an animated character that's not another player, but that means that those can't actually be other players.
It could be. It could very well be they have their own, AI players.
To move like that, they would have to be AI.
And an allegation was made in this video that I honestly think is true, especially when I look back after watching the other gameplay videos. And that was Fntastic did a thing called vertical slicing, which pretty much means they worked their asses off in a certain area to make it look all pretty, to make it look all good, knowing that this here is where they were going to kind of film their trailer at. And the problem with this is that the other areas in the game, they're not going to look like what we are seeing. AKA, Fntastic Games is trying to deceive us. And as you guys know, if you have watched my Saints Row reboot videos, the one thing I cannot stand, well, there's a lot of things I can't stand, but one of them is I can't stand developers trying to deceive their fans. I kind of continued down this rabbit hole because you guys know that if I am curious about something, I will keep digging, and I found out that they were actually looking for, Fntastic Games, was actually looking for volunteers to work on this game. A game that is one of the most highly wished for games on Steam. And they were looking for volunteers. The reason why this should raise you guys' eyebrows is because the only reason why someone would be doing this is that they're either cheap, which, you know, who knows, they might be, or they're running out of money. And if this is the case, Fntastic Games could be getting ready to set up the excuse that their budget for this game ran out. Kind of like they did with The Dead Dozen. When the game does launch, I don't think it's going to be anything like people are expecting. I think the graphics are going to be downgraded. I think it's going to be a bug-filled, glitchy mess. And it's clear that Fntastic Studios, they don't really have the experience to be working on this type of game, an open world MMO game, especially with their past history. I think if this game launches, what will end up happening is that the studio is just going to nope out of it, like they did with The Dead Dozen. And I think their previous actions should really speak volumes about them as a company, about what they might do with the day before. I think this is all just a money thing. The game might launch, the game might not launch, but I have a funny feeling that they are setting up a budget issue excuse. But you know what? I may be wrong. This game might launch. This game might be the best game ever. Or I may be right. In case you guys didn't know, I'm Gamer Geek. And if you're still around, why not watch this short little video up here where I talk about an amazing free-to-play battle royale game called Lost Light. I hope you guys have an amazing and wonderful day. Peace out.